Right, so I'm going to be using this example to work through. In this first video, I'm just going to be setting up a login system. And then in future videos, I'm going to go on to start adding in more features like users' details about services or customers to do different things. So we're going to start off with getting the login sorted. The first place to start with these projects is to start in Git, so we're not implementing Git later on, which just makes it more complicated. So in Git, I'm going to create a new repository. I'm just going to call it video tutorial for this example. My Git nor, I'm going to make sure I select node, and I'm going to leave the rest as it is. I'm going to create the repository. It's going to push it to Git. I'm going to make this public, and I'll link the repository so you guys can see it. So there we go, that's created, and I'm going to open it in VS Code so it opens in the correct place for me. There we go. So starting off, I'm going to get the front end started. I'm going off of this tutorial for React Router of setting it up. So I'm just going to follow the first few bits within it, or the first few lines of it, just to get the project set up for me. So I'm going to create a new folder called front end. Right click the folder, open an integrated terminal. Ignore this WSL stuff that keeps popping up for me. I'm going to do npm create vite at latest, and I'm just going to do a full stop there. So I'm telling it to create a new project, and the full stop means create it in the current directory that we're in. So I need to install something. Yes. I get options of the different packages that I want to use to create the project or to create the framework. So I'm going to use React, and I'm just going to use JavaScript. Alright, so that's created the project for me. I got all my files there. Next I want to do npm install react -router-dom. I also need some other bits to install as well. Off the top of my head, we need Axios and some cookies stuff. So I'm just going to check. Yeah, so it's going to be react-cookie singular Axios, and then we also need some bootstrap. So react bootstrap, and for the installs I need for React Bootstrap. I'm going off of their web page, and I'll link this as well. So it's just React Bootstrap and Bootstrap. So this will install the packages that are needed, in addition to all these ones as well. I'll give it a second there to install everything. It's taken a little bit of time, should be running quicker than this. Okay, done. Then I can do npm run dev. Now it's running. That'll give me a link to use, and we'll drag it over, and there we go. We have the basic page set up with everything we need. So I'm going to leave that terminal running. While that's running, I'm going to create, and I'm going to right click down here so that it does it elsewhere. I'm going to create a new folder called backend for my API. Open an integrated terminal. Make sure you're aware when you're running stuff which actual directory you're in. Be aware that it needs to end in backend if we're wanting to run stuff on the back end, and it needs to end in front end if we're running it on the front end. So just be aware of which directory you're in. So this command should work at home. So we should be able to do npm install -g express generator. So I've already got that installed, so it'll install it for me. Then I should be able to do npx express generator. Or, yeah, there we go. So that's generated a express project in here for me. So I don't need to do any of that. It tells me to do npm install. I'm going to do that. And I'm also going to tell it to run some other installs that I need as well. So the other sections that I need is, it's going to be .env, JSON, web token, MongoDB, I think is another one that we're going to need. Yeah, and crypto, CRYPTO-JS. We also need cores, so CRS as well. I think that's all the ones we need for the moment. So we'll run that. Again, I'm running it in the back end. Be aware of which folder you're running it in. And then my node modules folder appears. So you'll see on the left, if you've got Git installed and everything, and mine at the moment, everything's green because it's a new addition to the Git repository. If I flick back to Git, there's lots of stuff here. You can see that some of these folders, or the node modules folders, appear in grey, and the other ones appear in green. That's because the node modules folder is being ignored. The Git node that we chose when we set up the project has a number of things that it will ignore or that it won't include within the Git project. Node modules being one. So this node modules is never synced. If your syncing is taking a long time, or you end up with loads more than this, your Git node probably isn't set, and you need to make sure you're using the default node one. So somewhere down here, node modules. There's that node module. So we don't include that dependency folder, because whenever anyone runs npm install, it'll grab the dependencies for them. So that's the project set up as we need it. We're going to start to create the login. We're going to start with the backend side of it. So I'm going to go into my roots. In fact, I'm going to go into the app.js on the backend. So app.js on my backend. And we're going to make sure that we're using cores. So we're going to do var cores equals require cores. So we have it. And then we need to make sure we are importing it. So a little bit further down, just after the our app bit, we're going to do app.use cores. This allows us to make requests across different web addresses, otherwise it won't let us do it. We are going to then come into our roots folder, and we're going to create a new folder called auth, or authentication. Inside of our auth folder, we're going to create a file called functions.js. Right. And we're going to start writing out the functions that we're going to need to get or work with, sorry, the JavaScript web tokens or JSON web tokens. So we're going to do const env, because we're going to store the secret, or .env, because we're going to store the secret code in an environment file, and that's going to require .env. We're going to need JavaScript web tokens, so we're going to import that. We need our database URL. This is a standard one. MongoDB :/localhost 27017. With a slash at the end. Make sure you're getting the colon in there. And MongoDB as well. We need a function to generate based upon the email provided. So we're going to generate an access token using that email that is provided. So we're going to get our environment file, and then we're going to return JavaScript web token. We're going to sign it. We're going to the data that we're going to include in that, so the payload here is going to be the email that we take as an argument. The secret key or private key, so the secret key that was going to be in our .env file, which we're going to generate in a minute. That's going to be process.environment.to token secret. We can then pass through some options. Okay, so our options are going to include stuff like how long we want it to expire in. So we're going to expires in, and we're going to do 1800 seconds. We need a way of authenticating our token, so we're going to do a function auth token and pass through an authentication header using our config again, and const token is going to be our authorization header ended with our auth header dot split. In here we need to make sure there's a space. Okay, make sure you put a space in there. If you don't have a space, though, it's not going to work. And in brackets 1. Then we'll return JavaScript web token dot verify. We're going to verify that token. We pass through the token that we've received, and we pass through the secret key. So process dot environment dot token secret. Now we want to get the user's email from the authentication header. So we wrap the token, or we put the email in the token. So we want to be able to identify or get that data out of it again. So we can do function get email from auth and pass through our auth header. We do our .env.config, and then we do our const token is auth header and auth header dot split and a space with a 1. Again, make sure you got your space there. Const token. Oh, we've already done that, sorry. If javascript.webToken.verify, if we can verify the token, so if we can verify the token, so this will return a true or false value. If our token is valid, so same line that we did up here, if our token is valid, we know that we can decode the token. So we'll return javascript.webToken, decode that token, and get the email out of it. So we'll do .email. Otherwise, we know that if we try to verify it, and when we verify it, we know it's not valid, it's an invalid token, we can just return false. Okay. Down at the bottom of the file, we need to set these to be public. Module.exports. So we're going to export get email from auth, export authenticate token, and generate access token. Right. So the next bit is we're going to create the actual login, or the method to login in our authentication. So in the auth file, we're going to create a new file called index.js. We're going to add in our standard import, so var express equals require express, var router is express.router, with a capital R for that one, router, sorry, there, var crypto JS is require crypto-js, const Mongo client is require MongoDB. We need to pull through the generate access token from the functions file. So to do that, we say we're going to be using the generate access token, and then we say or that function, and then we're going to pull it through by doing /functions. That should be, as long as I've spelled that correctly, which I probably haven't known my spelling. So I'm going to just copy and paste it. It should have gone yellow for me there. There we go. And then we need our var URL is mongodb:/localhost:27017. Yeah, the slash at the end. So I'm going to do router.post /. So this is essentially saying when someone goes to localhost 3000/auth and makes a post request, okay, they're going to pass through to us an email and a password. With that email and the password, we're going to authenticate them and make sure that they can log in, and we're going to reply. So we'll reply with a token. So it's going to be an async function that takes in the request and makes and gives back a response. Okay. Spelled async wrong there. All right. In that, we're going to wrap it in a try catch. So if there's any errors, we can return them back or detect them and not crash. So if there's an error, we'll do console.log the error so we can see what it is, and then we'll do res.status 500.json and pass back a message that says an error occurred when logging in. Right. So we need to get the email. So we'll do var email equals request.body.email, and because it's coming through in a post request, we know it's in the body here. So because the data is being sent to us in a post request, it always appears in the body. So it's always request.body. We can get the password is crypto.js.sha512 request.body.password.toString, and then we can make our database connection. So we'll do var client is new Mongo client and pass through that URL. We'll do var database equals client.db. The database we're going to use we'll call ISL. And I've gone all caps with ISL there. var collection is going to be database.collection, and the collection will be users. So to know if that user is valid, we can do var user equals await collection dot count documents, and we can pass through that email and password. So this is going to count the amount of documents in which the email and password match, and it will return it back to this as a number. So if the user exists, then the user is going to be 1. Okay. If the user doesn't exist, it's not going to be 1. It's either going to be 0 or some weird number if there's a problem in the database. So if the details are correct, it'll go into this section here. So correct login details. Otherwise, if the details aren't correct, it's going to be incorrect login details here. So if they're incorrect, we'll do res.json message username or password are incorrect. If they are correct, we can do var token is generate access token, and we know it's correct, so we can just pass for the email address that the user provided us, and we can respond to that. Provide back the token back to the user. Okay. I'm going to finish this one here, just to not make this video too lengthy, about 20 minutes, that will do. The next one, I'm going to set up the login method. Oh, sorry, creating of a user method.